Okay, I tried to do this video once and it was too long. I'm going to keep it shorter. Nan is setting up a new filtration system and she asked to see mine. I'm sorry to anyone who has seen a video like this before. This is my pond. I believe it's a little bit over 1,000 gallons. Has a few koi, 2 Deutschkin Matsuba, an Ochiba Shigure, and then a Ginran Harawake, and then some goldfish. It's pretty much just a hole in the ground with a liner tossed in it. Had I known everything I knew now, years later, I would have done a lot differently. The biggest thing I would have changed is instead of just digging a hole, putting the liner on the ledge and stacking rocks on it, before I dug the hole, I would have dug and laid a cement ring. And what that is before you dig out the middle, dig a trench along the outside in the shape you want your pond to be and lay cement in that and let that set. What that's going to give you is a stable, level surface to affix the liner to, and to stack blocks if you want a raised ledge or like a partial below, partial above ground pond. It's a whole game changer. Of course, if I knew more, I would have done a bottom drain and a gravity fed system too, but that's a lot of money. My DIY system is largely, my filtration system is largely DIY, mostly just plumbing, a barrel. I did spend some money on the air pump, obviously the pump, the water pump. That is an Aquaforte micro sieve. That was about $500 if I remember correctly. That was expensive, but I'm glad I got it. And then we just have a cheap little waterfall box. So what we have over here is in the water, I've got a submersible 1,500 gallon per hour, might be 15, might be 1,800 gallon per hour pump attached with kink-free tubing going up to this little, adapter into the sieve. This stuff is terrible. If you have a choice, do flexible PVC, because not only does this not fit any standard fittings, like I've really got it cranked down here and I've got like some spare pond liner as a gasket inside here to keep it from leaking. Not only does it not fit anything, it also eventually splits, and instead of just cracking and being able to patch it, it splits and it unravels. So you just have like Arby's curly fries as a, pond plumbing. It's terrible. I need to change that. So the water goes into the sieve, and I just cleaned it out during the previous video, but the water overflows onto this wedge wire. This is not just a basic screen, and this is where most of the money is in this, in this device. The wedge wire pulls the water away while, separating all the mechanical detritus to just get that out of the water column. Rather than it just getting caught in a screen or on a sponge, the water is not touching it at all, which prevents it from breaking down and releasing more ammonia into the system. If someone, if you've got a pond and you can't afford a rotating drum filter, a sieve is definitely the way to go. There's a lot of different ones. There's Zaki sieves. There's this Aquaforte one. Definitely look into them. It's just overflows into here. These Fern Cofittings are a lifesaver because they'll attach anything within reason. They don't have to be exact. This pump that the sieve came with is a really weird, like thin gravity European wastewater type fitting. Nothing fits it. I couldn't find anything online anywhere, but a Fern Cofitting would attach, you get an adapter and get one that's close enough and you can really tighten it down. This is just silicone because this is gravity fed, and if the water level in the barrel gets too big, it'll start overflowing, so I've got that sealed. Going down into the bottom of the barrel, I definitely recommend couplers in between every step of filtration, because if something goes wrong, if this breaks, if this breaks, if this cracks, or anything on the other side, rather than completely having to reassemble everything, because once you glue PVC, this is the same piece now. There's no taking that off. But here we can just unscrew that. We can cut the water off, unscrew that, and replace whichever part you need to. Going into this barrel, the water feeds in at the bottom. The barrel is full of a mix of K3 and K1 coldness media, and it's aerated by a Metalla air pump. Not your standard little you get at an aquarium store for a fish tank pump. You do need a special pump. I mean, like, look at the size of the tube for that compared to the regular airline type tube. And that goes to air stone on the bottom here, and it churns this media. Now this does a few things, and I really like these kind of systems. These slowly over time get colonized with beneficial bacteria. The bacteria that process the ammonia and the nitrites in the water and keep the water non-toxic for your fish to live. When this is churning, not only is this increasing the amount of time the water's in contact with it, the water's not just going in a straight line straight to the overflow and back into the pond. It also, as these churn, they knock against each other, it's providing more oxygen to the bacteria to do the nitrification, and they're knocking against each other and they're cleaning themselves off. So any detritus or any old dead bacteria or sludge, it doesn't get on these. Now, I do need a larger pump if I want to completely aerate this. This side always gets a little bit stagnant, but I just stir it up once a day or every other day and it's fine. It's not a big deal. Overflows down into that waterfall box. This is an incredible coupler right here. This thing is heavy duty. Like, you can't really appreciate how big it is unless it's sitting on your kitchen table. It looks like a Thanksgiving turkey, or, you know, whatever holiday you guys celebrate. Now, in the waterfall box, it came with a bag of open cell sponges, which are great. But what I did is I filled it with crushed coral and crushed oyster shells. I just put them in. I actually used a porous shower curtain, like a sheer one that water would flow through. And I bundled it up in that, and then I zip tied it closed and dropped it in there. And those crushed coral and those crushed oyster shells, they have calcium. They've got calcium carbonate in it. And as the pH as the pH in the pond drops, mostly at night because plants start releasing CO2, which is acidic, rather than absorbing it, the lower pH water dissolves the calcium slowly in those oyster shells and crushed coral to cancel out that acidity, and it kind of acts as a long-term buffer to keep the pH from swinging, because that's a concern that happens a lot with systems and you want to avoid it if you can. It's not just the pH and ammonia you want to test in ponds. You definitely want to get a good idea of what your general and carbonate hardness are. Carbonate hardness is the one that you do want up a little bit so it prevents pH crashes. So that's my pond in a nutshell. Let me know if you have questions. I'll try to get back to you. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk, and have a good day.